Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We won't be real long today. I'd like to start off by thanking all my colleagues who are county auditors. We're in Columbus today for a meeting, executive committee. Is that right, Joe? I'd like to thank them for being here. It means a great deal to me that my former colleagues in the County Auditors Association are standing here with me today, and that they support this idea. What I'd like to talk about affects the budget, and this is not specifically an auditor's function to do this unilaterally, but it is the auditor's function to speak out on financial matters affecting the health of the state. And I believe this proposal will make the budget process in Ohio more orderly and perhaps avoid some of the difficulties we've had with budget cuts, repeated rounds of budget cuts recently. Ohio, of course, requires a balanced budget constitutionally. The question is, balanced to what? And in state government, pretty much it's whatever the governor says or whatever the legislature says the revenue estimate is going to be. The problem with that is that there's an inherent conflict of interest between the political objectives of the executive that intends to spend the money and the legislative branch that intends to appropriate the money, and assuming what the revenues will be. It would be pretty cool if I could balance my household budget by assuming that I'm going to have $300,000 next year, but I'm pretty certain no matter what happens, I will not. In the counties, we have the county commissioners that do both the executive and the legislative functions. It's a blended board. And we have an institution that's created by statute that has served us very well. And every county auditor here today uses and is experienced with this process. It's called the County Budget Commission. We do not allow the county commissioners to set the revenue estimates that they will spend. Rather, the County Budget Commission, which is made up of the county auditor, the county treasurer, and the county prosecutor, agree on an estimate, certify that to the appropriating authority, in this case the county commissioners, but it also could be a school board or a board of township trustees, and then the appropriations must match that certification. That is illegal and improper for the spending authority to exceed that number. Now, during the course of the year, the Budget Commission will meet. Some counties, they meet on a regular basis. The counties that are in better financial condition may not meet quite as frequently. But they review the revenues that are coming in, matching it against estimates, and can revise that estimate up or down. And if it's revised downward, it can trigger a round of budget cuts. Why is this important? Because of the budget cycle, every week that you wait to cut a budget, the deeper the cuts have to be in order to deal with an annualized budget. In other words, every passing week leaves you fewer weeks in which to achieve the number that you've got to achieve. So cutting a budget early means smaller cuts. Cutting it late in the year and hoping for things to turn around requires larger budget cuts or successive rounds of budget cutting. It makes sense to have an independent organization, an independent body reviewing this and setting the limits for the appropriating and spending authorities. Works well in the counties, it will work well at the state. So we are proposing a state budget commission that would be made up of the treasurer, who sees the revenues first, the auditor, who is aware of how the money's being spent, and the attorney general, who can advise as to the law and, as the prosecutor does, says the third vote on the board. We believe this can be done with legislation and would not require a constitutional amendment. I've talked with several legislators about the idea, and there's interest in pursuing this. I think that it will require and should have some vigorous public debate before we decide exactly what it looks like. There are certain things about a county budget commission that I would not consider being appropriate to import into a state budget commission. For example, the authority to review certain kinds of tax levies. That works well at a county level. I'm not sure that it's an appropriate mechanism at the state level. The individual language will have to be crafted carefully, and as a result of discussions among all the stakeholders, what I'm here today to do is propose a concept that I believe will help us have cleaner, more accountable, and more effective government on the finance and budgeting side of Ohio. So with that, I'd be glad to take any questions that you might. We have the deposits board. So there are ample precedents in the existing statutory law to point the way.
Are you saying that if this commission revised estimates downwards, that would require the governor to make budget cuts, or just would it be an automatic requirement?
It would be a legal requirement. Now, like any other matter of law, if a state, county, city officer refuses to comply with a statute, it then becomes a matter for the discretion of the chief legal officer whether a legal remedy is warranted from the courts.
Would this budget commission be relying on the same numbers that the administration is using now to come up with its projections, or the legislature uses to make its projections?
Well, the numbers is a tricky idea. From the standpoint of the revenue that actually comes in over an existing period of time from various sources, sure, that all looks the same. Where revenue estimates tend to come into problems is the numbers that are assumed. What's going to happen with unemployment? What's going to happen with interest rates, for example? The state of Ohio holds large sums of money and receives interest income off of that. It makes a big difference whether you're getting 1% interest or 5% interest. There's 1,000, well, maybe not 1,000, but at least hundreds of assumptions that you make about what economic conditions will be that affect the revenue estimate. And from that standpoint, I don't know that the Budget Commission would necessarily rely on the same numbers that the administration will.
How would you keep politics from inserting itself into this debate? If any one of these, or more than one of these, have ambitions to be the next governor, to try and hamstring the current one?
Well, for starters, there are 3 people involved, not one. But you know, let's be candid here. Appropriation, revenue estimates, spending are essentially political matters. What this does is reduces the politics by expanding the number of people who are involved in the process, and it eliminates the conflict of interest that's inherent with the tax spender estimating how much tax income is going to be there.
So would the 3 individuals on this board have to come to an agreement with a vote on what they believe the revenue estimates are going to be?
Precisely, and that's the way it happens in every county in Ohio.
Simple majority?
Simple majority.